We are currently at a 6 crore gross revenue scale, growing 20-25% month on month. That poses challenges on a daily basis. How to lead a team and be good leaders.
What challenge do you face from a leadership point of view?
We want to hire someone that's probably a retail expert. Knowing that he probably has 30 years of experience building retail stores, would we have a voice to reason with that?
The more senior the person, the more weightage on the attitude. If the attitude is not in alignment, I am not hiring a leader, I'm hiring a hijacker.
We thought like putting a cap to the age or the experience.
You'll start getting accused for ageism on the internet.
Let's say a 3-month period for them to come into the office and realize that, oh, it's not working, where we can figure out if they're a business fit, culture fit, a good understanding and rapport between each other.
I see a lot of operational leaders brush this as ye HR ka kaam. And they suck at people management because they don't know how to see people from a... And I'll tell you, every business is a people business. Hello, Ria and Shreya. Welcome to Fix My Business. So this is where we have a conversation to understand what you do, where you are at, where do you want to go, and how can I help you in that journey of fixing your business. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. We're super excited to be here.
Awesome. So before we begin, if you would like to share with everybody, who are you and what do you do? Just to get the ball rolling.
Hi, I'm Shreya. I'm the co-founder and CMO at Cava Athleisure.
And I'm Ria. I'm the CEO at Cava Athleisure, and we're sisters. Fun fact.
Awesome. We couldn't figure that out. So what does Cava do? Tell us a little bit about Cava.
So Cava is basically shaping the Indian athleisure revolution. We're making clothes that feel good, look good, and perform even better.
Okay.
So products that are really good quality, but also very high on the fashionability scale. And that's the intersection of that is basically what Cava does.
So fashion and comfort.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where are you guys at in your business today? Tell us a little bit about where is the business at.
So it's been a very fun and exciting journey for us. We are currently at about a 6 crore gross revenue scale, growing almost 20-25% month on month. The team is rapidly increasing. We have about 40-45 members on the team. And, that poses challenges on a daily basis for me and Shreya. Challenges that keep it fun, keep it exciting, and bring a lot of growth and excitement in our lives as well.
But I think Kava's at its peak growth spurt right now with like a lot of stuff that we've been planning finally kind of coming to life.
Yes.
Awesome. So what aspect of the business would you like to focus on in this conversation today?
So what we're really keen on discussing with you is kind of how to lead a team and be good leaders, managers,
Okay.
Especially
because we are young founders, and like that is one thing that is definitely something we still struggle with in this space, because fashion as a space is a very native space to India. It has people who've been there for like 25-30 plus years, and it also does come with a lot of age and respect going hand in hand.
Yeah.
So kind of how to maneuver that aspect.
Okay. So let's go deeper. Elaborate that for me. Like what challenge do you face from a leadership point of view, from navigating through with people who are experienced? What are your challenges? What are your typical day-to-day issues?
I think, firstly, this is the first official job that me and Shreya ever doing, right? Because Kava started when she was in school and I was in college. So it wasn't like we were working in a corporate or an MNC before. So we've not closely seen hierarchy or structure of any corporate, apart from the businesses that we've seen within our network and within our family.
Yeah.
And those are typically more family run and more not very structured or not very VC approved as you speak, right? And obviously building team is very important for me and Shreya, but we also don't want to reinvent the wheel where it doesn't have to be. Like retail as a playbook exists in India multifold. So we want to hire someone that's probably a retail expert from some other brand, but knowing that he probably has 30 years of experience building retail stores, would we have a voice to reason with that, or would we kind of stand our ground? How do we let this person make this department his own while making sure that it goes hand in hand with Kava as a brand and what we're trying to build, not just company wise but also culture wise, because both are very important to us.
Awesome. Okay. So one is, what I hear is, you want to have a framework or a mechanism where, while you want to leverage the expertise and experience of an individual, you want to still maintain the essence of Kava.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we marry the essence of Kava with the experience of an individual, and how do you as leaders kind of communicate and hold that position with the
Yeah.
team that you're hiring?
Yeah.
That would be one outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? What else?
So yeah, I think because obviously we know exactly the direction we want to take Kava in, and like that we are the best people to build it, but without overstepping on like the people that come on board with the experience, still kind of explaining our vision to them while them being able to add to the growth at Kava. I think that
Okay.
is.
I think one more thing that we would want to hear about is how do we let go of the smaller tasks and start get better at delegating, because I think building a team also comes with a little bit of giving control away, and when you've built it with so much passion where it feels like your baby, like knowing that someone else is probably taking decisions that you need 6 months to coach them what the right decision even would be, that seems like, oh, should we just do it ourselves? And I know we've made some headroom there, but I think there's still a lot more, maybe a good framework as to what can be delegated and what not, and how to take comfort in the tasks that are delegated.
Got it. Got it. So, drawing the founder's boundary, basically, and delegating. Anything else that you feel gets you to second guess yourself in this journey of managing people, leading people, or something that you hesitate in doing?
I think one more thing definitely that isn't still fully equal is the fact that we are still women, and the space does have like mostly every like sourcing person, logistics person, etc. are male, and like how to kind of deal with that, because the second they kind of see just both of us sitting in that room, the seriousness versus like if we kind of take somebody who is like from our team and like has been
Older and
older and like has that more traditional look of somebody who understands like logistics or sourcing or like numbers to it,
Hmm.
the initial impression is completely different. So
Hmm.
kind of how to change that view of people in the first get go is something.
And I actually think this, for us, we've had a very global sort of exposure till here, right? So we never expected this to be what India's landscape looks like, but we've had so many incidents that has led us to believe that this is the norm in the way like people work, right? Like, for example, when we go to factories to discuss orders and, place up production or whatever, they literally tell me that, oh, beta, call your dad.
Hmm.
And hearing that on a daily basis, or not a daily basis but often, is just not, and you can't say anything in the moment, because how are you as one individual going to be able to change so many years of thought process that this person has had? But how do we let that not affect us
How does it
is,
affect you today? Like, what happens to you the moment you experience that?
I feel like initially we used to fight with it, because we used to be like, oh my God, like I am the one running this company and I know more than any, like my dad could probably say about my company, and that's just not fair. But at the end of the day, I know I need to get my work done. So even if I have to do a pre-call to my dad and be like, just act like you're the person and tell him this, I take that path, because that's the path of least resistance. And that's probably one of the problems that I'm trying to solve with my company, right? So I don't want to spend too much time on it and just get my work done and get out of there. But there has to be a more long lasting solution. But while I do that, obviously after I go back home, there is still like a half an hour thinking process that I go into, and that's not the best for me personally showing up the next day.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's obviously taking the right business call, but also taking the right call for Ria and Shreya as individuals, that
Fair, fair.
we need to.
I would say that's a very temporary experience you're going to be having. It's just a matter of time when the story comes out and you, as founders, are seen by the world. You will see that change. Um, it's a bruise you got to enjoy. It'll turn into a badge of honor soon. But I get what you experience, and you experience it probably very differently from how even I can understand it. Because in my case, when I started young at the age of 19, I had the age barrier to deal with. In your
Yeah.
case, you're facing an age plus gender bias that people see. And I mean, we can't change the world, but we can change the perspective of the world through our results. So that'll happen over a period of time. Anything else that you feel? Because so far I've got how do you leverage the experience while retaining the essence of what you want to build when you are hiring people? How do you let go and delegate so that you have clarity of the founder's role, and the challenge you face as young women founders? Anything else that you feel you'd like to use this conversation for?
I also think knowing that we're hiring the right people, because we
Okay.
don't really have the time to experiment with bad hires, especially on leadership and top management level. We don't have, let's say, a 3 month period for them to come into the office and realize that, oh, it's not working, because we have way too many things to get done in that time period. So,
Got it.
what are like interesting things that we can do before, where we can figure out if they're a business fit, culture fit, and if we also have a good understanding and rapport between uh, each other. Because yes, we have to make sure that we're letting this person grow, but also this person needs to respect us and our vision of the company. So how do we establish that during the hiring process?
Fair. Done. Anything else, or do you think this is a good
Sounds
list?
good.
Okay, cool. So I'll tell you what I get that you need is a management system. Okay, like um, it cannot be what is Shreya's personality, or it cannot be what is Ria's personality. It has to be a merger of the two personalities with what works for the business. So we have to build a Kava way of doing things. And while we look at a Kava way of doing things, um, what I would like to break down for you guys, and I'm just trying to structure my thoughts to give you the right sequence. Um, I would say that firstly, what you have to be clear about is a mechanism that you need to follow at every step of people management. Okay. So if you look at people management as an exercise, it starts with hiring. Okay. So there has to be a hiring process, which I will break down for you guys. Once you hire, the next part is delegating. Okay. Which again is to address what you let go. From there, the next part is developing people, because no matter who you hire and how experienced they are, you have to have an intervention as an organization to constantly make sure you're getting the best out of them, and they are also upskilling and going to the next level. So you have hiring, you have delegation, you have developing people, you have reviewing people, which is very very critical. Um, and I'm sure this is an area uh, every founder kind of needs to figure out what's the right way of doing it. So you have reviewing, then you have another aspect of people management, which is recognition. So you got to make sure that uh, you have mechanisms to recognize and retain talent. Beyond recognition comes your appraisal system, and then also comes a firing process, when to say this is not working. So would you guys like to go deeper into this and discover these aspects?
Sounds great. I
Yeah.
think all are something we need to know.
Okay, awesome. So when it comes to hiring, now one of the biggest misconceptions that we have about hiring is that the problem is we don't find enough talent. But the truth is, there's no dearth of talent in the market. What businesses struggle with is that they don't know how to attract that talent, they don't know how to source that talent. Now honestly, in your case, I don't see that as a problem, because for what you guys have been able to accomplish in your space, you are an aspirational workplace for anybody in your industry, because you are in the growth curve. People would like to be a part of your growth journey. So the real challenge that you will face is from everybody who has nice things to say and express their desire to work with you, who has the substance to actually deliver, and not just be someone who's good at putting up a facade that they will really come in and add value.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, your preparation is more important than the interview itself. So today, if you have to give me a sneak peek into what do you do before you hire a person, how do you evaluate an individual, what is it that you guys are following today, or what is it that you guys are doing today?
So, like you said, we definitely don't have, like, a dearth of like inbound requests. Every role we put out, we get at least like 500, 600 applicants. And then from there, the process kind of goes through the initial screening of just, okay, like where they're based, if they're like, like the initial calls, and then like matching the basics. And then after that, it's about looking at the salary bracket that our budget is versus like, what they're looking for, matching that. And then coming down to what we do is send them obviously the JD that which they've probably seen, and like check with them if this is something that they are open to doing. And then we send them a task sheet, basically dependent on the role, where they kind of have to submit their assignment, and like whatever it is, then the functional manager or else whoever it is that's taking the call for that role kind of goes through that task. And if the work is something that we like, then we move it into an in-person meeting, which is the most important. I think you can't tell anything about a person until you kind of speak to them, understand from them, and really understand if that long term like culture fit is there, and that like if they just align with the vision of what Kava is. Because the day-to-day task is something that anyone can do, but it's about the energy that they bring to the team, and like what they really are doing in terms of the brand in the end of it. So yeah, like I think it's that in-person meeting that really depends on how things go. And then if we sometimes, if it's a senior hire, etc., we need a follow-up meeting as well.
Got it. Awesome. So it looks pretty good, but I'm going to make it more scientific if you guys are open to it.
Yes, please.
So here's the way I see it. Okay. So first thing when you're hiring people is whoever the reporting manager of that hire is going to be. What you need to expect from that reporting manager, which means in certain cases you need to expect that from yourself if you're hiring at a senior level, is you need to get that reporting manager to create a role task document. Okay. Now, unfortunately, what happens in a lot of businesses is that most businesses end up hiring for titles rather than tasks. So, what most businesses do is that they say we're looking out for a social media marketing executive, or we're looking out for a logistics manager, or we're looking out for an operations executive. Now, these are titles. These titles mean different things for different businesses.
Yeah.
So, what you want is your reporting manager to detail out the tasks and activities they expect this individual to do. And this cannot be chat GPT generated, which is another common mistake people are making today, is that they're giving a prompt to chat GPT and telling chat GPT, give me the list of tasks and activities. You want your reporting manager to be absolutely clear about the tasks and activities that they expect the individual to do in a step-by-step sequential manner. So it's almost like if you had to train a robot to do the tasks, in what level of minute detailing would you list out the task? So if you tell a robot brush your teeth, that's not a clear instruction. You would tell the robot turn left, okay, that's called a doorknob, turn the doorknob to the left, enter the washroom, stand in front of the mirror, pick up the toothpaste with your right hand, take the toothbrush with your left hand, squeeze the bottom of the toothpaste to get enough paste onto the bristles of the toothbrush. You need to go to that level of detailing in the tasks and activities. And I'll tell you the benefit of this exercise. The real benefit of this exercise is that the reporting manager understands what exactly they want. And the bigger benefit of the exercise is sometimes the reporting manager understands that they don't understand enough of what they expect the person
I
to
think
do.
more often than that.
And that second scenario is more common than the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reporting manager now gets into this gray area zone of saying, okay, I want someone for logistics, but I don't really know what they should do in logistics because I myself don't understand logistics. Or I want someone for Instagram, but I myself don't understand what I expect that person to do for Instagram. So then in this process of constructing the role task document, a version 1 is generated by the reporting manager. You need a version 2 validation. Now, the version 2 validation, the best place to get a version 2 validation could be through other people in the same industry. So, if you have some well wishers, people who worked in another business or are building another competing business, sometimes you find these kind of industry mentors who've been there and done that.
Yeah.
So, validating this from them or with them is a great exercise. There's another interesting way of doing it. If you have a potential hire in mind, let's just say someone on LinkedIn who's playing that role for another organization, and you reach out to them and say, hey, listen, if can I get some of your time as an advisor for a particular problem statement I have in my business? And you reach out to such people, and they are forthcoming, they are willing to engage, and they help you construct that role document. Sometimes I do that as a way of screening that person itself to see that will this person be a good hire for us. Okay, so the role task document needs to go through multiple iterations. The goal of the role task document is that there should be enough clarity in a step-by-step sequential manner as to what activities are expected from that particular role. Okay, Now, people like to call this job description. I don't call it job description because job description has a very standard template, which is a Google download or a chat GPT generated thing. I call it role task because I want to know exactly what activities are supposed to be done. That's step number one, to be prepared. Step two, once you create the role task document, is you need to make a list of the skills, the knowledge, the behavioral traits, the self image, and I'll break each one of these down in detail for you, and the motive of this individual. Okay. So, let me tell you how this is to be done. Because at the end of the day, when you're screening a person, what are you screening? You're screening whether this person's the right fit for a job role. Now, when you're screening whether they're a right fit, what exactly do you need to evaluate? You need to evaluate skills. Now, skill would be what are the technical abilities required to do the job task. Okay. So, this is the abilities required to do the job task. Okay. Knowledge would be the information required to do the job task. Okay. So, say for example, if I'm looking at hiring a sales executive and I run a CCTV automation business, and if I receive a CV that says 15 years experience in sales, that tells me that the person has the ability to sell. But if the CV continues to read that I have 15 years of experience in sales and I've sold credit cards for Citibank for the last 15 years, that tells me the person does not have the knowledge of my industry, which is say CCTV and cameras and automation instruments, right? So skill is ability, knowledge is information and data required to do the job task. So for every task and activity in the role document, you need to make a corresponding column. To do this task, what skill is required, what knowledge is required. And when you do this for every task, then you have the technical requirement defined for a particular job role. And I'll then break down for you how do you screen these aspects. Now, these two are visible aspects. Okay, you can evaluate a person's skill, you can test a person's knowledge. But the invisible force is the more lethal or the more misleading trap of a hire, right?
Yeah.
Which is the behavioral traits, the self-image, and the motive of an individual. All these three are attitude elements. Okay, and this is more like an iceberg. Okay, this you see on top. This is the iceberg below the water, and this is the bigger part. Now, when it comes to the attitude elements or behavioral traits, this is where the reporting manager and in the initial stages, probably you for the senior level hires, have to define a wish list of behavioral traits that you expect in this person. Okay. Now, what you need to understand is behavioral traits are characteristics that either add value to an individual skill or they diminish the value of a skill. Like, I'm sure you would have encountered someone technically very good at what they are supposed to do, but because they have the behavioral traits of they're too arrogant, they're too dominating, they're too they always want to be this alpha energy in control, people don't like to work with that person on their team. Yeah. So what's happening is the behavioral traits of being dominating and aggressive are diminishing the value of the skill set. Okay.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you may have people moderate level skill and knowledge, not too great, not too bad, but the behavioral attributes of the person is that this person is empathetic, they are kind, they are patient, and because of these traits of empathy, kindness, and patience, they're very good at getting work done from people, right? So you want to put a wish list out here of what behavioral attributes will make the person effective in this job role. You don't have to do this task by task. Only skill and knowledge is task by task. The behavioral attributes is more macro. Like, for example, say I have a team member who's reserved, who's an introvert. Now, would you rate that as a positive behavior or a negative behavior?
Depends on the role.
Exactly. Now, in most cases, while hiring, we lose that objectivity. While hiring, person looks confident, communicates well, we're like, baat acha karta hai, okay, appearance is good, let's bring that person in. But say, for example, if I'm looking for a role of an accountant, I would love the person to be an introvert. I don't want the guy to be an extrovert who's sitting and talking about what they are doing to everybody in every department where it's not even their business.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, then being an introvert in a role of an accountant is a positive fitment
Yeah.
to that role. So you want to go role by role at a macro level, and the relevance of the traits changes, the relevance of the motive changes, the relevance of the self-image changes. Like, for example, someone who's driven by the motive of, I want to make more money for myself. Now, that would serve as a positive motive if it's in a sales based role, where the amount of sales the person can influence defines the incentive they can draw. Then this motive of, I want to make money for myself, is a great win. But if you have someone in a supply or in a purchase role whose thought process is, how can I make more money, that's detrimental to the interest of the business.
Yeah.
So the behavioral traits is the characteristics that either add value or diminish value to the skill. Motive is the deeper purpose, the driving force of the individual. So what would be an ideal motive for that particular job role is what you want to define. And the self image is, how should that person see themselves. Okay. uh, you know, like, best way of breaking it down is, have you ever promoted a team member who's done really well to the role of a team lead or a manager? Okay, from an individual contributor, you promoted them, but instead of getting the work done, they end up doing the work of people. Have you experienced that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you see, the self image of that individual hasn't changed. They're still seeing themselves as,
An executor.
I got to do the work, I got to get it done. And even if you question them and challenge them saying, आप क्यों कर रहे हो? They'll be like, छोड़ो ना मैडम, वो लोग नहीं कर रहे, मैं करवा दूंगा, आप टेंशन मत लो. But it's not serving the purpose. So you want to define, how should that person see himself or herself. Okay. And this is again role based. If I'm looking at someone in sales, I would want to see that person seeing himself or herself as a go getter, कि मेरे को ना समझ में नहीं आता, जो भी है मैं करवा लूंगा. If I have a person in operations, I want to make sure that that person sees themselves as an artist, as a perfectionist. Okay, so that they're driven by that finishing touch. They're not just looking at doing a shoddy job and getting away. So this is a wish list again that you need to prepare with the reporting manager as to what are we looking out for. Now, this list of skills, knowledge, behavioral traits, self-image, and motive, this is what you need to gather evidence for in the interview. Now, if you don't have this list, then your interview is nothing but a beauty pageant's interview, where you're just going and asking world peace questions and the person's giving you eloquent answers and you think that that candidate is good. So this becomes your evidence gathering sheet, where you need to evaluate whether the person has the required competence or not. Now, how do you evaluate? Okay, which is the third step, which is the screening process. Okay, so here's what you need to go in prepared with. When it comes to evaluating skills, you need to go in prepared with tasks and assignments that you give that person, which you mentioned that you already do. Where you give them something from the role to see their output. Okay, so if it's an accountant, you give them a sample sheet of your bank statement and open your accounting software and ask them to enter the data. How will they record it to understand whether they have the skill of accounting? If it's a graphic designer, you give them a brief, you ask them to design graphics. If it's a video editor, you ask them to edit a video. So whatever role you're hiring the person for, give them the actual tasks to do as an assignment to evaluate skill. Now,
can this assignment be done like prior, or should it be done like while they're then and there?
So say, I prefer calling people in and making them do the task and assignment under the supervision of the person interviewing them. Because say, for example, if I'm hiring a video editor and I give them a brief and say, edit the video and send it back. Now, he may get his friend to edit it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he's editing it. Okay. If I'm getting a content writer and that content writer, all they're doing is just using ChatGPT to generate content, then that's not in the best interest of my business. So I would do this physically. Purely because I want to be sure that it's that individual who's doing that job. Okay. So for evaluating skills, you need to have a set of tasks and assignments. For evaluating knowledge, you need to make sure that you have a test paper or an examination. This is more theoretical because you want to evaluate informational understanding of that person. That does this person have the required information relevant to our industry, relevant to the job role that person is playing. So this is more like a test paper or an exam paper. It sounds juvenile, but it's important to do this stuff. And when businesses miss this is when they are missing out on evaluating every single element of that individual. So yes, there is a test paper. Okay, if it's a HR person, there should be a HR test. If it's an accounts person, there should be an accounts test. If there's a design person, there should be a design test. Okay, now please understand, this task and assignment will show their ability. This will show their knowledge, their information, the data that they have.
But should the knowledge be about the industry or about the
About
job role?
the job role.
Okay.
The knowledge is to do with the job role.
But isn't that the same thing we're kind of doing in the assignment?
The assignment is to test the ability to do the task. Like,
Okay.
say, for example, if I am hiring a person to run events for your brand, say BTL activations for your brand. Now, I will probably give him an assignment saying conceptualize a BTL activation for our athleisure brand.
Yeah.
So he may come up with a concept saying we'll partner with a marathon, we'll partner with a runners club or whatever. Okay. But for the knowledge, if this person is responsible to execute those BTL activations, then I would ask him what would be the checklist of items that has to go in for a marathon, for organizing a marathon. What kind of backdrops can we use? So I want to see whether he understands the language of a flex backdrop, a cloth backdrop, an LED wall. He needs to have that information or knowledge, because I won't
Yeah.
really give him the assignment of executing that, right?
True.
But I need to understand whether he has the language, the glossary required to coordinate with, say, an event partner, to validate an event partner. So for that, I need to test the theory. So there are certain things that you will not be able to give an assignment for, but you want to understand concept knowledge. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I would ask him a question saying, what are the top marathon sporting events you think we should be at? Or what are the top fitness communities we should associate with? I want to see, does he even know that there's a presence of fitness communities or not? Right? So that's knowledge. Now, for the attitude elements, okay, be it the behavioral traits or the self-image or the motive, for all these three attitude elements to evaluate them, I need to be prepared with indirect questions, not direct questions. So, say for example, a behavioral trait I'm looking at in a person is persistence. I can't go in with a question like, "Are you persistent?" He may not even understand the meaning of the word persistence and nod his head and say yes. I need to go in with an indirect question like, "Tell me a time in your life where you've not got what you wanted. What did you do?" Not even saying, "How did you get it?" If I'm saying, "How did you get it?" I'm implying he got it. So even if he didn't get it, he'll cook up a story.
Yeah.
I'm saying, "What did you do? Give me 2-3 instances in your life you didn't get what you wanted. What did you do?" Now that person may narrate an instance saying, "I applied for an internship, didn't get it. I went and took a job in my uncle's factory." So, didn't really push, didn't really explore options. Versus the person saying, "I went on LinkedIn, I created a profile, I learned how to network with people on LinkedIn. I tried sending out a video interview letter to that organization." So I know there's effort over there. So creating indirect questions where you're not implying the trait, you're not even using the word of that trait you're looking for, but you're asking situational questions. So preparing those kind of indirect questions is one part. The other thing to do here is also to identify what psychometric assessment you can use to get deeper into the personality of the individual. Now, the idea behind using a psychometric assessment is there are plenty in the market.
Yeah.
These are all tools developed by behavioral scientists who've done research on behavioral patterns to be able to tell you the core attitude and the character of an individual. Now, people often ask me which is the best psychometric assessment. I say that, look, if I name one, you will think that's the gold standard, but it may not be relevant for your business. The best way to identify a psychometric assessment is, say, for example, you're looking at hiring a person in operations. Okay. You go on the internet, you search psychometric assessment for an operations executive in the athleisure space. Now, based on keyword search, Google or ChatGPT may recommend 5-6 assessments to you. Buy 5 different assessments, buy a sample. Okay. Get one of your existing team members who you know well, who you've spent enough time with, to take up that assessment, even if they're not a part of that job role for which you are hiring. The reason behind doing this is you are piloting these 5 assessments with one individual, and whichever assessment most accurately describes the characteristics of this person, because you know this person, make that assessment as a part of your hiring process. And for every job role, rely on different assessments. Uh, Very rarely you'll find the same assessment working for different job roles.
Yeah.
Okay. So test. This is an internal test, but it's a one-time test. Now, what preparation of this does for imagine for every role in your organization, you've listed skills, knowledge, and attitude elements. And for skills, you have the tasks and assignments, the knowledge, you have the test paper created. For attitude, you have indirect questions and psychometric assessments in place. This becomes a very, very scientific hiring process. See, HR is not an accurate science, it's a probabilistic science.
Yeah.
This improves your probability. Okay. So, this is to be done for every role. The worst thing to do is expect an HR executive or a HR manager to prepare this for all roles. That's the biggest mistake a business makes. You need to get all your leaders together and run this like an internal workshop where they spend a day together. Step by step, they prepare a version 1. That version 1 can be further corrected, further modified, further perfectly crafted by an HR executive.
Yeah.
But let the version 1 come from operational leaders across departments so that even they develop this ability to view people from the point of view of skill, knowledge, behavioral traits, self-image, and motive. Because otherwise, I see a lot of operational leaders brush this as ye HR ka kaam hai.
True.
And then they suck at people management because they don't know how to see people from a skill, from a knowledge, from a behavior, from a motive, and from a self-image perspective. So you want this, especially this aspect, to be the way of evaluation on a day-to-day basis from a leader to a subordinate. So that's why involving them in the creation of this exercise is important. So they fall back upon this document for giving feedback. They fall back upon this document for reviewing. They fall back upon this document for the appraisal of the individual.
Makes a lot of sense. But what do you think you would give more weightage to? Like, let's say someone is 100 on the test and the assignment, but on the psychometric test and the indirect question, he's only like 80 versus someone else who's doing really well there and maybe like 20 points lesser here.
Brilliant question. The way I would see it, the more senior the person, the more weightage on the attitude. Because if the senior, see, it's a given that the senior level individual comes with the skills and knowledge.
Yeah.
Now the question for me is, if I have to leverage those skills and knowledge for the business, is the attitude in alignment with the business? Because if the attitude is not in alignment with the business, I am not hiring a leader, I'm hiring a hijacker. Okay.
Yeah.
And then my entire life goes in negotiating with the hijacker, which is a very painful journey.
Yeah.
So the more senior an individual, the more higher weightage I give to attitude. The more junior an individual, I actually don't expect skill and knowledge from a junior level individual. The only thing I look for is this person willing to work hard? Is this person willing to stretch? Is this person having the ability to learn?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hire a wimp who's going to come and be fragile for every little thing. You are a growing business.
Yeah.
You can't afford a layer on the organization who's like a little bit of stress and then they start pressing alarm bells of mental health. Okay. So you want to bring in younger people with passion, with hunger, with work ethic, with learning ability. You may not expect them to come with a ready set skill, because that skill, the expectation is that they will learn on the job through the people who have the expertise.
Yeah, I
Right?
think what you said makes a lot of sense for us, and we've realized that people who want to prove themselves have a better fitment to Cava than people that come with too many years of experience. And what we have thought, I don't know, tell me what you think about this, but we thought like putting a cap to the age or the experience limit, because the minute it becomes too much and the attitude is not right, it causes more problems than it does good to the company. So is that a okay filtering method?
You'll start getting accused for ageism on the internet if you do that. Um, but I know for a fact that every organization sets some kind of checks and balances where they know
Okay.
what the vibe of the workplace is like and what fits for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we have noticed that when we go with somebody with like say 10 plus years of experience, they also come with this baggage of
Yeah.
like, you know, whatever they've been through, and like that the same amount of like excitement to like do things is not there,
Yeah.
which we kind of are looking
So I'll tell you, you will, as a business, as a growing business, need that kind of experience in certain roles.
Yeah.
for. Yeah.
So there, your filtration is largely the attitude.
Hmm.
The person may have gray hair on their head, but is the heart young? If the heart is not young, they are going to be a misfit. Okay, so that's why I said the more senior, the more it's more a vibe check than a skill check. Okay, and there are enough people who are enthusiastic to join a younger organization, even though they come with legacy experience of a legacy brand,
Yeah.
because it's for them a point to prove themselves. It's like I can do it over and over again, and that's the kind of people you want to attract. Okay,
True.
which brings me to the next part, the delegation part. So especially when you hire at a senior level, okay, one of the things you want to set as a precedent is culture first. Say we are proud of who we are. We may have 10,000 flaws internally at the back end, but we still own them. We are proud of it. Because I'll tell you what happens when you hire at a senior level as a young brand, as a growing brand, the trap they can fall into and you can fall into is number one, as a person joining a young organization which is fast, growing fast, and is willing to pay me well because I come with the pedigree of experience, I also want to make sure that I prove to them that the pennies they are spending on me is worth it.
Yeah.
And the best way to prove that they are worth it is to come in and say, whatever is happening here is wrong. And because you're paying them that amount of money, you also will fall into the trap of nodding your head to everything that they say is wrong, saying, yeah, finally we found someone who's telling us what our problems are. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this is where uh, you'll have to grow up faster than your age and experience. This is where you'll have to learn how to back your conviction in the culture you've built rather than surrender your soul to someone who comes with experience. So the precedent you got to set for someone who you are hiring at a senior level is, hey, we know you have the expertise, but first win the heart. Okay, get the trust and the buy-in of the team. Okay, before you use your head, connect with people with your heart, connect with the brand, connect with the soul of this organization. Because the easiest thing for an experienced person to walk in is to come and find faults. Tell me, what do you find great about us? What do you find amazing? It's not like you're looking for a yes man or a yes woman.
Yeah.
You're looking at the person's ability to embrace what you've built. Okay, and once they are able to embrace that by connecting with people who are there, okay, then they are in a better position to leverage their expertise. Okay, so especially when you hire at a senior level, again, for you the alarm always has to be culture first, capability next. Okay, that has to be your filtration rule. Okay, because you'll find many who will tell you they are capable, but if they're not aligned with the culture, their capability is not going to come to use to the organization.
Very true. Yeah.
So now when it comes to delegation, um, one of the things you have to be clear about is the level at which you are hiring someone. So in every role, you need to have a doer, who is the person who's going to execute the task. You need to have a manager, who is the person who will manage people, process, performance, and whatever functional projects. So the manager is responsible for this. He has to manage the doer, make sure that the doer is following the process, make sure that the doer is achieving the performance metrics, and make sure that the projects are seeing the light of the day, their conclusion. Now there is another layer which is called a creator layer, okay, or the management layer. Now this is where you have to start being clear at this stage, because you are at that sweet spot of forming a core team.
Yeah.
Okay, you have those 40-45 people fully invested in the vision, but now as you scale, you have to start identifying whose capacity ends only here and whose capacity is to move here. Okay, so I'll draw the distinction for you. Ever had this experience where you're sitting with a manager, you're having a conversation, but you leave that conversation feeling they can't think like me. Okay, they're not able to see things through like me, or they don't have the vision like me, or they're not exercising decisions. Ever had that experience?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, you want to understand that person's a manager that think like me, okay, or match my frequency. Essentially, what is missing in that individual is strategic thinking. The other thing that is missing in that individual is decision making ability. What you will see is the difference between the manager and the management is, even though you empower managers saying you decide, they'll come in and they'll say, I just want to check with you, is it okay if I do it? And you'll be like, I told you, you decide. And they're like, yeah, I have decided, I'm just checking. But they've not decided. They want validation. These people don't need validation. They are willing to put their neck on the line and own up a decision. If it goes south, they say, my decision, my call. If it works, they say, my call. So they are willing to make decisions. They think strategically. These people essentially have business acumen. Managers don't have business acumen. They very follow the book. Sometimes they'll do stupid things, like a team member is really unwell and they will say, no, you have to come today. And they'll be proud saying, I made sure there's productivity. No, sometimes you got to take that call and say, hey, listen, something's happened, chill, just take a back seat. So this acumen is very different from this acumen.
Yeah.
Okay. And then comes the next layer of the organization, which is the visionaries. These are the people who create. Okay, they create the future. Okay, they create the goals, the outcomes. Okay, very future focused outcomes, that this function, this department needs to evolve like this. Now, while I'm on this topic of delegation, this is where I want to talk about your role. If you're doing anything below this, you're not fulfilling your role. Okay. While I said that theoretically, practically, here's what's going to happen. Till you build a very, very strong pipeline of second line and third line leaders, everybody in the organization, you will notice, is doing the work of people one level lower than them. So whoever you made CMO is actually thinking like marketing manager. And whoever is marketing manager is actually sitting and executing content by themselves. And the person supposed to execute content is actually just clapping for the doer, saying, oh, too good, I learned a lot from you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so therefore, it is also very important for you as the founders to set the benchmark, saying that all of us will play two roles. We'll play the role that we are supposed to play, and we'll play the role that we are not supposed to play, that people one level below us are supposed to play. And the victory of an individual is when they move out of the role of the person they are supposed to be supervising into the role that they are supposed to be playing. And that movement is only possible when they are developing people. Yeah.
Got it. So we play even the role prior.
You will also be playing the role prior. Today, you will be playing the role of decision making, business acumen, strategic thinking for various functions in the business.
I think there are some departments where we go down to even a doer level, and
Yeah.
some where the teams are more advanced, it stops at just one.
Yeah.
Versus others, it's like 3 steps prior to what we're supposed to be doing. So those can be looked at and formulated even more.
Absolutely. So you will have to be very conscious of this. In fact, I'll tell you, every business is a people business. Whatever you would like to position it as to the market. Some companies say we're a tech company, some companies say we're a fashion brand. Every business is a people business. If you master the ability to build this pipeline of leaders and you just become a leadership factory, growth is inevitable.
Yeah.
Okay, so your focus has to be that how do I drive the narrative internally of us building a leadership factory, which means the metrics of a team member or a manager is how many leaders did you develop, how many managers did you develop. The metrics of management is How many management executives did you build? Okay, and that becomes your metrics then. How many visionaries did you nurture?
True.
Okay? So like you have the PayPal mafia and the Zomato mafia. Okay, you got to build your Cava mafia. That okay, how do we build a pipeline, a factory of leaders? We don't just produce athleisure, we produce leaders internally. Athleisure is for the world. That's the commodity we sell outside. Okay, internally we build a leadership factory. So that should be the focus that you are driving. So that's your delegation aspect. Again, in alignment with the competence. Everything is in alignment with the skill, knowledge, behavior, traits, self-image, and motive. Now, when it comes to developing people, now this is where a very important thing that gets ignored by fast growing businesses. You can't compromise speed, okay? But if you don't have strength, that speed comes back and bites you, okay? Because to be able to manage that speed, you need to have competent people. Otherwise, what ends up happening is people will stretch, you will put in 18, 20 hours, but then there'll come a burnout, and then there'll come a fatigue, then there'll come a slowdown. Then every break also is not a break, it's not going to rejuvenate you back to that energy. So, this people development has to be an ongoing activity. Yes, you may need to do trainings and events and stuff like that to enhance people's capabilities. But I am a big believer that trainings are good to give concept knowledge. The real development happens on the job. And the factor that contributes to development is the competence of the leaders, which means are leaders good at giving feedback?
Yeah.
Okay. And feedback in most cases is seen as frustration. But if you're venting your frustration on someone, that's not feedback. So you need to make sure that everybody in the organization, every leader, every time they talk to a team member, is telling people what they did well, what they did not do well, and what they need to do next. And this what they need to do next needs to be actionable. If this is not actionable and this is vague, then vague feedback is pointless. So everyone needs to give actionable feedback. This needs to be culture driven by you, which means this has to become your communication framework. You did this well, you did not do this well, this is what you need to do different. If that becomes a conversation culture, you're building that leadership factory. Which brings me to review. Now, when you review people, usually the review questions, standard question is what was the goal, what is done, what is not done. And after what is done, what is not done, the standard question is why is it not done? Now, when you ask someone why is it not done, they tell you why it's not done, and then your temperature goes up saying, don't give me reasons. Okay, right?
Just ask for the reason.
Yeah, you asked for the reason. And when they're giving you the reason, you're getting upset with them. That's meaningless. So when it comes to reviews, you need to set up a paradigm. Again, this is all culture. You need to tell people, hey, listen, in any situation, either give me a result or give me a lesson. Give me a lesson of what you learned. Okay? Which means you're telling people it's okay to fail, but please fail differently. If you're going to fail the same way again and again, that's insanity, that's stupidity. That I will not take. Make a newer mistake, a bigger mistake. I love that because you're telling me a lesson. Okay. So the way the review should be structured is you need to have like at least fortnightly performance reviews, which means every person's answering 7 questions. What was the goal? What's done? What's not done? Then, based on what's done, not done, what was missing from your end? So we are telling people, reflect what was missing from your end. What could you have done differently? Okay. So what was missing from your end? What did you learn? Now, if they're saying nothing's missing from my end and I didn't learn anything and still the work is not done, then I'm talking to a wall. I'm talking to a wall who's not willing to be responsible. I want to talk to people who are willing to take responsibility. So I want people to reflect. I am not going to attack you for screw ups.
Yeah.
Because screw ups is the only way we are going to grow. Okay. But I want to know when you screwed up, did you reflect and identify where did you screw up and what did you learn from it? And based on what you learned, what will be different about you? So I'm not even asking when will you get it done. I'm saying tell me what will change. Okay, what will be different? So I'm taking a commitment. Then I'm asking what will you get done and by when will you get it done? this needs to be my template of reviews with everybody. So the review is moving us forward. It's not taking us backwards in conflict. And if you look at this, there is no reason for any personal attacks.
Yeah.
So nobody ever feels threatened. Nobody ever has to play safe. Nobody ever has to be guarded. In fact, if they're guarded and they play safe, that's when they don't fit into the culture.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your review. Now, as an organization, just celebrate everything. We live in a world of lack of gratitude. There's so much that's working for us, but we don't acknowledge it. We are too focused on, oh, this is broken. We don't see what's done. So just build that as baseline culture. Just learn how to have fun. Okay. Which means you need to not take your business seriously as well. Sometimes the pressure will get to you,
Yeah.
but don't take it seriously. See, sometimes people say you shouldn't rest on past laurels. I'm saying you should every day go to bed with tears of gratitude saying, how far have I come? Okay. So people will, in the market, they will always try to tell you, you've not done this, you've not done this, you've not done this. You got to look back and say, who are we? Two young girls bloody built a brand. Who in India has built a brand? That's not your arrogance. That's your gratitude for your journey. And therefore, you got to translate that gratitude even to your team. Okay. See, you girls come from a Marwadi family. Okay. Super calculations. So all the time, sometimes the brain is not celebrating enough. It's already seeing what's missing. You need to shift that.
100%. Yeah.
You need to shift that. You need to really give yourself credit, because if you don't celebrate things at your level, you will build an ungrateful organization. People call that hunger. I call that stupidity. Okay. You can still be hungry while you're celebrating how far you've come. Okay. So the recognition method is, okay, what was our win? Where did we win? And what next? So the hunger never dies. See, if you understand, management and leadership is all about asking the right questions. Everything I'm giving you is questions. These questions you keep answering every day, you build excellence in the organization. Which brings me to appraisal. When it comes to appraisal, please remember, you can't appraise a person whose goals you've not defined at the start of the year. So you got to define goals clearly. Now you got to define 3 goals for every individual for appraisal. You got to define a result goal. You got to define a skill and knowledge development goal. And you got to define an attitude goal. Now, these 3 goals you define at the start of the year, you review them on a monthly basis, where every person should get feedback at a one-to-one level from their reporting manager, which means you review managers, managers review their team members. So every month you're giving feedback on what's done, what's not done, what needs to be different, on result, on skill and knowledge based on the competence attributes of that individual's role. So you are taking the list from here itself. The document you use for hiring is the same document you're using for feedback and appraisal.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you give feedback on the attitude elements as well. So every month you are giving this feedback at a one-to-one level. Then you're recording the feedback. And the cumulative records of the year becomes the percentage of results achieved, percentage of skill and knowledge growth achieved, percentage of attitude achieved, therefore percentage of appraisal achieved. So this can be made scientific. Lastly comes firing. Fire fast. Hope is the worst enemy of a high performance team. Okay. If you see traits of an individual not working, and even when it comes to firing, I'm not asking you to be ruthless and exploitative and saying that if they don't achieve goal, fire. No. I'm saying 3 types of people that deserve to be fired. One is criminals. Second is character problem. And third is competence problem. Criminals basically is anybody cheating, stealing, sexual harassment, zero tolerance. Okay. No warning, nothing, just fire. Guilt free. Okay. Because it's a crime. You're not a jail. You're not a rehabilitation center. Somebody's committed a crime. I always tell this to business owners, look forward to a crime and fire immediately, because that one firing story sets culture for the rest of the organization.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't get disappointed, dejected, saying, "Arey yaar, under our nose, this was getting stolen or this has happened." That's first opportunity to build culture. Okay. So zero tolerance. Character and competence, develop people. Okay. Uh, Develop competence, develop character, both these through coaching, mentoring, guiding internally, okay, trainings. But if there is no reciprocation, say you put a person through training, no change. You put a person through one-to-one coaching, you are spending time, or senior members spending time, mentoring is happening, hand-holding is happening, no change over there. Then at every possible intervention, you always record feedback saying that, hey, we discussed this, we decided this, you committed to this change isn't happening, we gave you this support, still not happening, we're giving you this support, still not happening. If you've done proper coaching, training, hand holding internally and recorded feedback at every step, even the team member knows the organization put effort. Okay. And still I couldn't show up, so I don't fit, then let them go. It could be a behavioral issue. Character is basically behavior. Someone who's arrogant, blame game, manipulation, loves gossip. Competence is to do with the skills and knowledge of the role. So these two deserve an intervention, but beyond the intervention, if the person doesn't reciprocate, you let them go. So that's your people management crash course.
This was so informative. I think we have so much to introspect on, but so many good things and so relatable, I
Yeah.
think.
I'll share this with you guys, but all I would say is, see, to come back to now tying up what you shared, if you follow this framework, that's a very fair essence. You're taking a very fair essence where you're goal focused because you're looking at skills and knowledge that are relevant to the goals. You're people focused because you have that approach of hand holding, mentoring, feedback. You're doing all of these things. So if that becomes the essence, even if it's an experienced person, you are taking yourself out of the picture. You're saying this is the management system we follow.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that's the only way for it to be like long term.
Yeah, it lives beyond you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It lives beyond you. So you build your management system on this essence of being a fair, focused, and a fun workplace. You can be all three at the same time. Huh? You don't have to choose only one personality.
Yeah.
Okay. You can be fun, you can be focused, and you can build a fair workplace. So that becomes the essence. That takes care of delegation. You know at what levels you are delegating every time you're delegating. That also takes care of the fact that, hey, listen, it's not about my gender, it's not about my age, it's about my substance, who I am, it's my competence. So in every situation you play the game of competence. Okay, you can't age faster than what you want to age. You can't just shift genders because the society is biased is whatever. You build your business on competence and you make it a story worth telling to the world. So that's your entire system.
That's great. I
Yeah.
think
That was
loved.
super helpful. I think so much to learn from
Yeah.
it and like take back with us and actually apply on a daily basis.
For sure.
Awesome. So I'm going to make sure we share this with you.
Yes.
And yeah, look forward to seeing Kava go where it has to go.
Yeah, with more of your mentorship wherever needed. But thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Happy to help anytime. Thank you. Guys.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.